good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be here at Cisco Live Melbourne for second year for me. How many of you folks, by the way, got a chance to see the talk this morning, the keynote where there was a lot of talk about digital resilience and Splunk and so on? Okay. What you guys think of the demo? Just kidding. I'm not doing any demos. That's not my thing. I'm here to talk about where we're headed with observability in the era of AI, and there are many stations out here where you can get a great demo if that's what you're into. Now, like I said, my name's Patrick Lin. I've been in the observability business for a decade or so, and I've been in the business of helping to ensure systems are resilient since the early days of server virtualization. So dating myself a little bit there, but the point of me saying that is to say that I've been in this business of kind of tracking what's going on and helping to shape how we think about the state of applications and infrastructure and the businesses that rely on them for about 20-something years. And in that time, right, we've seen greater and greater complexity out there in all kinds of environments, right? With the systems and the applications and services now with a range of architectures, with a range of vintages, right? And they're running across all kinds of different networks. Some of them you own, some of them you don't. A lot of stuff's going over the internet. And they can be accessed through a variety of different mechanisms, mobile apps, could be something in your browser, it could be a single page app. And all of that is interconnected in ways that can be hard to see and sometimes actually even harder to understand, right? And in this kind of picture, right, when something fails, that can cascade very quickly, right? You might actually see that happening at machine speed, and before you know it, all hell has broken loose. Now, does that get better in the age of AI? Well, let's take a look, right? Because as AI takes center stage, the picture does get a little bit more complicated. In the old world, right, we thought about systems as being reasonably deterministic. So you put the same input into them, you get a predictable output, right? And we've been tossing around this term about determinism and so on. It all feels kind of random, right? When you go and put something in ChatGPT, you say the same thing, 3 times, you get 3 different answers, right? And so that kind of thing helps us to really understand at a visceral level the fact that AI, it's really kind of playing by a different set of rules altogether. And the LLMs, they can generate some pretty outstanding and amazing and fascinating results, and sometimes unintended, shall we say, right? And when we get to agents, the thing about them is that agents are operating within a more constrained framework, right? And so as a result of that, they're somewhat more predictable in the actions that they take. But their autonomous behavior, especially when they start to interact with one another, shall we say that might be a cause for some concern, okay? And so in this newer world, right, if we thought it was complex before, I kind of think we ain't seen nothing yet. Okay, so with that, right, what is it that we are in the business of doing as Splunk as part of Cisco? It's really about the same mission we've had for a few years here around delivering digital resilience, but with AI in the picture. And so there are kind of 2 aspects to that, right? Part of it is about resilience for AI. So we need to make sure that the systems that we've got, they're trustworthy, they're reliable, and at the same time, we also need to have resilience with AI, right? To make sure that we can take advantage of what AI can do for us, so that we can actually deliver on the outcomes that we're looking for when it comes to security tools, observability tools, all the different things that you have that are now getting turbocharged with the power of AI. And that fundamentally is the reason why we've brought the Cisco Data Fabric to life. For those that are interested in more detail on this, actually I saw it right over there. There's a booth talking about it in much greater detail. But I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview here because it's fundamental to the approach we're taking at Splunk around Splunk in the age of AI. Because fundamentally what we're doing is saying, given all these changes that are happening, how can we adapt what we're doing for that purpose? How do we help you stay ahead of the needs that you have as AI becomes more and more prevalent in the environments you have to manage? and how it helps to make the outcomes you want faster and better, and hopefully still predictable and high quality over time. And so what is the Cisco Data Fabric? Well, it is fundamentally based on the Splunk data platform that our customers have known and loved us for quite some time, right? But it's getting a massive infusion of AI-powered workflows, and it is also something that we are going to use to carve out a niche in the data lake landscape, okay? And so this is something that is going to focus on machine data, right? That's our specialty as Splunk, is how do we make use of that data so that you can do things like train and build your own models on top of the data that you have. So now, of course, the question is, why do we need this newer approach? And there are a few different pieces to it, right? Part of it is the sheer quantity of data. You know, we like to talk about the ludicrous amount of data. It is kind of silly how much it is that's out there. I always get a picture of ludicrous when I'm saying that. But it is kind of funny how much data there is and how you have to be able to manage that properly and analyze that properly. The second piece there is that there's actually an inherent value to that data beyond the uses that we have for it today, right? Where we say, okay, we capture all this data, you can go and analyze it for security purposes, for observability purposes, a lot of other kind of use cases of that data. But the data itself can actually be used for the purpose of training models, right? And I'll talk about an example of where we've done that already. The third piece here is really about evolving the way in which we use the data on a day-to-day basis. So just like developer workflows have radically changed with the introduction of AI, right? You go to a development shop these days and you've got AI coding agents helping you build the actual code. You've got AI helping you write the unit tests, right? You've got things that make the whole process of coding dramatically different than what it used to be. And our hypothesis is that you'll see a similar evolution in terms of the things that are enabled on top of the Cisco Data Fabric for the security operations, the engineering, the net ops, the IT ops teams, right? You'll see a different way for interacting with the data because of this. Okay, so what does this fabric actually look like? This is, by the way, not an anatomically correct view. It's really designed to help you understand a few key points about the approach that we're taking when it comes to the Cisco Data Fabric, right? The first part of that, it is, like I said earlier, an evolution of the platform that we got on top of which we are building observability and security solutions. And the one thing that doesn't change is that customers and partners can still build on top of this platform, right? It's still an open platform, it's still data agnostic, and the value of Splunk that everyone kind of has relied on in terms of its ability to be neutral to that data, irrespective of what source it comes from, what format it comes in, who's which vendor whose product it comes from, right? All of that we'll still continue to take in, and that is fundamental to our approach, right? So that's sort of thing number one, right? No change to Splunk as sort of the neutral third party in capturing data for your use. The second piece here is that there are some capabilities here that may look unfamiliar, right? But there also are elements that hopefully, if you've been kind of following along with the evolution of Splunk, will look familiar to you, right? Federated data access has been part of the strategy for the last several years because we really do want to make sure that you're able to get to the data wherever it lives without necessarily having to think about, okay, what happens if I have to ingest all of that into the Splunk platform, okay? And the point here really is that this is, again, an evolution of the Splunk platform. It's not a whole different product that organizations have to buy, okay? So then what is actually new here? There's a couple of different things. Now, the first is actually the machine data lake, which is sort of that foundational layer in there, and it's something that we are building right now. It'll be alpha early next calendar year. And what it's going to do is aggregate data irrespective of the source and irrespective of the format, and put it into common models like OCSF or OpenTelemetry. And on top of that, there's an enterprise-grade analytics layer that allows you to derive insight from that, right? And so with this as a foundation, you can build your own machine GPT, so to speak. The other thing that's really new here is the part that is referred to as the AI native experiences. And I think the example that we saw on stage today, AI Canvas, is one of the types of AI native experiences, right? Where you have a way to interact with the data that's different than before, where instead of memorizing your SPL commands, you can just talk to an assistant and then bring other people in to collaborate with it. You can see the trail of the different prompts that they've had, because that's part of the thing you need to do in order to trust the output that the AI agent or assistants are providing to you, so that you can actually get to the end result that you want, right? When you're working with people to figure out like what problem has occurred or what security breach has occurred. Now the third here is about the evolution in our approach around data management and federation, right? And there's a couple of things I really want to emphasize about this, because I think when we talk about federation, oftentimes I think it's unclear to folks what we mean by that. And one of the main things that we need to make sure is understood is that this is about bringing Splunk to the data, rather than saying, I need to centralize all of that data into the single data store, and only until then, right, can I do something useful with it. This is about saying it's okay to leave it where it is, because it might not be something where you want to incur the cost of bringing all of that in, right? And this is a very big shift in the mindset overall when it comes to Splunk. And we're continuing to evolve the data that we're able to bring into this and extend it in different ways. So originally, federation was about taking different instances of Splunk and saying, okay, let me make that part of a logical grouping. We've added things like support for Amazon S3. And one of the more interesting partnerships we've actually brought in here is with Snowflake, so that you can combine business data and operational data to get some more insights into a single view, right? And it's a big step, in our view, towards a connected data fabric across the entirety of your enterprise. Now, what are the kinds of things you can do once you've actually got that data fabric in place? Well, one of the things is this idea of a time series model. This is actually a foundation model that we've been working on. We're going to put it on Hugging Face here pretty shortly. And the basic idea, when I said machine GPT, right? That's kind of the idea here, is that we take the same approaches that you have with a chat GPT, but instead of just chatting with it, we're taking machine data. So we're taking time series data, we're taking metrics, and instead of having the model predict what the next word is or what the next phrase is going to be, it's going to predict the next value in the time series. So instantly you can kind of imagine, okay, hey, wouldn't this help us actually get to better and more accurate anomaly detection, right? So instead of having approaches that are based on statistical methods where I'm looking at, the mean plus standard deviations, and I adapt to seasonality with some form of machine learning. How about if I've got something that can predict it, right? And would that not give me a better result ultimately when I'm trying to get into the right monitoring posture as quickly as possible? Right? So there's a lot of art of the possible here, and I think there's a few iterations of this that you'll see over time, but we're very optimistic about where this can go. The other thing that we can do with this, so I was talking earlier about having AI-powered workflows, and a lot of that is also being delivered on top of this data fabric. So with SPL2, effectively, we have a next generation of the Splunk query language that most of our customers are familiar with. And this is something that actually will work across all Splunk products. Okay, so that's a very critical thing as well, is that it's not limited to the original kind of Splunk logging platform that everyone is familiar with. In addition, aside from having that language, right, we'll continue to iterate on the AI assistant for SPL so that you can talk to it in natural language and get the right query output from it. Okay. So that's the core platform piece of what we're doing at Splunk. And of course, on top of that, we're building a lot of capabilities in both observability and security. And of course, this is my wheelhouse, so I'm sure this is going to be an awesome section, right? So many great things we're doing in this area. See, there's even sparkles, right? I forgot to point out there's always sparkles when we talk AI in observability. And just like we've adapted the Splunk platform for AI, we're also adapting what we do in observability for that purpose, right? And I think the way we're doing that is by delivering on what we call agentic observability, which has three key elements to it. The first of those is about how we use AI to turbocharge observability. Right? And it's not just about giving you an assistant, right, to make your data exploration or your troubleshooting more efficient. It's about working with you, right? Because AI can effectively be a team member that you work with, and it can help do things that will accelerate whatever it is you're doing in the workflow around observability. So whether that's giving you another pair of hands or another brain, I guess, right? Or helping you diagnose issues more quickly, right? There are a lot of things that can be brought to life by bringing AI agents into the mix. And the other thing about this, right, is that it is about taking a more proactive stance when you think about how you prevent issues from spiraling out of control. So it's not just how do I react more quickly, right? It's also about saying, can I get to a picture of where things are headed so that I can get ahead of them and hopefully fix things or tune things before they get out of control. And so the first element of this that we've been working on actually is in alpha today. It is an AI troubleshooting agent as part of Observability Cloud. And these agents are designed to actually look across all the different sources of data, the metrics, the logs, the traces, and they will generate hypotheses about what is actually going on and help to pinpoint root causes. Okay, so it's pretty interesting. This stuff is working. I don't know if we've got the demo showing up over in the pods just yet, but it's something that we've got in our customers' hands, and I think the reaction so far is quite positive. Always, of course, more work to do, but I think they really love the way it's helping them to democratize access to that information and make the processing of it and the analysis of it much faster. Now, the second deliverable here when it comes to agentic observability is in actually addressing the fact that AI needs oversight. Okay? And we've talked about how they're unpredictable, same input, different output, blah, blah, blah. You guys have heard this story many times already. But the point here for us is that in order to get to a higher level of understanding of what's happening, you need observability across that entire stack, right? Starting from the GPUs, looking at the agents, the conversations, right? And when it comes to what you're actually measuring, the traditional golden signals aren't going to be enough around your latency or your error rates, right? Those things are of course important, but you're going to need more than that. You're going to need to look at the quality of the responses. You're going to need to look at the cost and be able to say, is it better for my business if I use AI in this way or that way, right? This model or that model, because those are going to be really important for making sure that as you use it, it fits into the business goals that you have. And so we're delivering pieces of this today. AI infrastructure monitoring is already generally available. That's something that we talked about actually at Cisco Live back in June. We have AI agent monitoring here in the works now. It's in alpha state. And what it's doing is actually looking at the performance of the models that underpin the agents so that you can then decide whether they're doing the right thing or not, right? They're taking the concept of tracing and extending that to capture the payload of, hey, what is the user prompt? What is the system prompt that's being submitted? What is the response that I'm getting back from the LLM? So that I can actually get a very, very accurate picture of how the application that is enabled by that LLM, how it's performing. The other piece here is that it does integrate with Cisco AI Defense so that we have complete visibility into that side of things as well. Because ultimately, our belief here is that even though there are teams that are a little bit more specialized on using AI and ML-related systems, it's going to be part of the job of every engineer who's building applications to incorporate that. And therefore, all the concerns that those folks typically have in those more specialized roles will become part of what you see application engineering teams needing to deal with. And that's why we want to make sure that visibility is brought in here as well. Okay. Now, all of this innovation actually is not possible if you don't have a strong platform approach to support it, all right? It's one that you need in order to be able to see those end-to-end workflows without having to resort to a swivel chair approach. And I think the foundation there is really an important one to put in place, because if you don't have that, then what is the AI acting on, right? The AI needs access to the data in a fairly clean fashion, right? And without it, it's only going to have a limited set of things that it can look at. Okay, so for us to be able to get to that, root cause analysis across all those sort of different types of data, all those different layers, you need to have access to it in the first place. Okay. And so, what we've been delivering here in the background, that is not all the AI flash with the sparkles and stuff, is actually the nuts and bolts of what I'm actually getting asked about most here at this conference, which is around how we bring the different parts of our portfolio together. So this example here is talking about the support we have in application performance monitoring for multiple types of architectures, right? Where originally we focused a lot in Splunk observability on cloud-native type approaches, microservices, Kubernetes, containers, serverless, that kind of thing. And we've extended that and kind of brought in a lot of the capabilities that were in the App Dynamics portfolio around looking at more monolithic architectures, 3-tier, N-tier, that sort of thing. And also bringing in things like database monitoring, things like bringing in the secure application for real-time vulnerability detection in your applications. And really kind of bring that into a single console kind of approach. Now, all of that, of course, is a foundation for the engineering and ops folks who need to deeply understand how things are going. But we also know that oftentimes when there's a problem, it's not really necessarily all on them, right? Oftentimes it's going to be that there may be a design issue, right? Maybe the usability of this thing isn't quite right. And so we want to be able to ensure that our customers are able to get an even broader view as to what's going on and understand things from the user experience perspective. And that's why we've started to go into the area of digital experience analytics. This is something that is also in alpha. It lets you visualize the end-to-end path to see where customers are dropping off, be able to pinpoint what's driving engagement and conversion, right? And if something feels off, you can actually go and look at the actual sessions, right? Using session replay and get to that spot to say, okay, here's where the friction actually occurs. And by the way, let's hand it off to the design team instead of blaming the engineering folks or the bringing the SREs in. Okay. Lastly, but certainly not least, is how we're bringing NetOps into the picture. So, of course, many folks here know that part of the portfolio within Cisco is around networking with Thousand Eyes, and we've actually been doing a whole lot of work here to do integrations across them so that you can get to the single most important thing for every network operations person, which is to blame someone else when something goes wrong, right? And so this actually gives us visibility to say, okay, is the problem in the network or in the application, and whether you're looking at it from the networking side or from the application side, you'll get that answer because the integration is bi-directional, okay? Okay, so that's what we're doing in observability. We are also, of course, bringing AI into the security side of the equation. So let's pivot to talk a little bit about that, okay? Now, I think it sort of goes without saying that things have not been easy in the SOC over the last few years, and I think a lot of folks assume that AI is actually going to make this worse, right? It's going to not just make things more complicated when it comes to applications and understanding how that's supposed to behave, but it's also potentially going to speed up the kind of attacks that can get generated, right? And so I think if we see SOC folks already dealing with alert fatigue, dealing with expanding attack services, dealing with skill shortages, that picture may actually get worse here in the short term, right? AI is going to amplify all of those challenges, in our opinion. And so for us, I think one of the things we're trying to do is say, okay, security teams and the tools they use, can we make them more intelligent? Can we make them more adaptable? Can we make them more collaborative so they can get ahead of this sort of thing? And so, of course, we're going to then evolve security operations in order to help with that scenario. Now, there's a few things that we're doing on this front. The first is we do need to make sure we're simplifying the analyst experience, right? Today, oftentimes you've got different tools, just like you have in other realms, where if I'm looking at the threat detection, I'm using a different tool for that than the remediation and the tool to do automated remediation, right? And so one of the things that we're doing within Splunk is saying, okay, how do I take the different tools here and put them into a single work surface in the form of security additions? And so you'll see this actually already today in the product where we can say, okay, the detections, the investigations, right, the response, they're all in one place. and you have integrated threat intelligence with that. So instead of having to go get a bunch of different products and have swivel chair actions within the security team, right, you have this one surface. And this sort of Premier Edition actually starts with, I think, ES 8.2, okay, for those who are keeping track of the details there. Now, the other second thing here is really around this theme of how do we adapt in the era of AI. And I think for us, this is about bringing in AI to turbocharge what we're doing for security. So there is an AI assistant now that's available that we have that can help do things like AI-powered query generation, summarization of issues. And also, we're in the process of building a triage agent, okay? Something that will use Agentic AI to streamline alerts, prioritize what's important, streamline the investigations that you can do with them. Okay? So lots here that is actually going to be about saying, okay, how do I, again, turbocharge the tools that I have with AI and get to a better outcome. Now, finally, through expanded detection and visibility, we're also focused on bringing order to the enormous amount of security data volumes and making sure we can surface threats through all the noise. And so one of the ways in which we're doing that is by releasing something that's based on an acquisition of a company called Snap Attack. What we're doing is we're releasing this thing called the Detection Studio, and as the name kind of implies, this is something that helps you to author and tune the detections you've got. It's a workbench for teams so that they can assess the health of the detections they've got. It adds versioning, adds a bunch of things you can do to make sure that you are up to snuff in your security posture overall. Okay? Now, all the stuff that I've been talking about is the work that we're doing pretty much within the bounds of Splunk as you kind of traditionally know it. But as part of Cisco, there's a bunch of synergies we've started to deliver on here as well that I want to talk a little bit about, right? The first of these we talked about this morning. This is actually more on the commercial end of things rather than the technical end of things, but the ability to get free ingest of Cisco firewall logs into Splunk is something that we hope our customers will be able to benefit from. The second is actually more in the technical side of things here with integration between Splunk and Isovalent. And there are actually multiple parts of this. There is a security element to this, right, to be able to get deeper insight into, say, open source LLM risks. We're also taking the output from Isovalent and using to populate some of the networking views that we have in observability so that you can take advantage of the fact that the Tetragon eBPF agent is very widely deployed and will be even more widely deployed as smart switches, hybrid mesh firewalls, and that sort of thing get out there with it automatically included. Right? And we're also using it for data management purposes. One of the slides earlier on the Cisco Data Fabric talks about AI-powered data management. Some of that is about saying, can I get the data at the edge that's being captured through one of these sort of Tetragon deployments from Isovalent, and can I use that to then filter the data to make sure that what I actually take into Splunk is the lower volume, higher value part of the networking data. Okay, so lots of great things that we're able to do with this, and that is really just the tip of the iceberg, right? There's something like 30 plus integrations that we've done with the rest of the portfolio, and this is sort of one of those things that is evolving and being added to on a very, very regular basis. And the pace of innovation, I think, is really only just picking up here. Okay, so lots of stuff that we're doing within Splunk, but I want to actually stop that part now and do the most fun part of this, which is actually to bring up to stage and welcome one of our great customers here. Please welcome Anton from HCF. That's right, you don't need the headset anymore.
I'll leave that.
Excellent. Well, so Anton, so great to have you with us here today. Maybe we can kick things off by helping the audience get to know a little bit about you.
Hi, I'm Anton Eckstein. I work for HCF. I've been there about 18 months now. I've been in the IT industry for about 30 years, most of it in the networking space, but I spent a lot of time, a lot of years in the operational space. So I'm very interested and very keen on observability.
Yeah. So one of the things I noticed when we spoke, your title, right? Head of Networks and Reliability Engineering. That's kind of an interesting thing, right? Like, where does that come from?
Well, the role was created 18 months ago, mainly to uplift and modernize HCF's network to start with, but also there was a recognition there that we also had to uplift the operations at HCF, and part of that is obviously to uplift the observability.
Yeah. Makes perfect sense. And maybe you can tell the audience a little bit about HCF, just so we're all kind of all on the same page.
So HCF, we're a health insurance provider. We're the largest not-for-profit health insurance provider in Australia. We've got about 2 million members, and we're really focused on our members. We don't have shareholders we have to answer to. So we focus on our members. It's about improving their lives, improving their well-being. And in fact, 89 cents of every premium that comes into HCF gets turned back to the members in terms of benefits if they go to the physio or the dentist or optometrist and so on.
89 cents. I feel like we have something to learn in the American healthcare system from that. All right. Well, so I guess maybe to sort of shift gears a little bit, right? How about if we talk about HCF? Now, we got the background on it. When you first arrived, now what do things look like there?
So when I first arrived at HCF, you get involved in a couple of war rooms. It was very reactive, okay? It took hours, in some cases days, to get down to the root of a problem. And mainly, you get on a Teams call, and you have a bunch of engineers that sit on that call, that log on to the individual systems, and then try to correlate, okay, what's going on, where's it gone wrong, and a lot of opinions and blaming happening along the way as well.
So my understanding is that things have evolved quite a bit in 18 months.
Things have evolved got quite a bit in there. So we've uplifted the monitoring, mainly around the infrastructure so far, and a lot of that data is coming into Splunk. So instead of you having to log on to 3-4 different systems to figure out what's going on, all the data is there, and the data is democratized. So, the network team can see what's going on in the servers and vice versa. So you can see that data in Splunk, and you can then start correlating data. So it's a lot less time spent on just finding out what's going on and finding someone who's got access to the data to figure out what's going on.
Yeah. Now, so you're talking about centralizing data, and when you say Splunk here, I assume you're talking primarily about the core platform, but you've got broader use of the portfolio here as well, right?
Yeah, we've got Splunk Cloud, including the Splunk Cloud platform, including ITSI. We've got App Dynamics, it's been in there for a while. We also just deployed the observability cloud, the infrastructure monitoring for our cloud infrastructure. We've got Thousand Eyes. I can tell you, as a long-term network person, I love Thousand Eyes because there's no more blaming of the network all the time. Okay. Well, they still blame us, but we can argue. Okay. And then we've got a whole bunch of Cisco products, like the Cisco Catalyst Center, Cisco SD-WAN, ICE, wireless LAN controller. There's probably a few more that I missed out, but there's a fair.
Great. So you're like the poster child here for Cisco Live. We could have you on virtually any stage here. So I guess with all of that set of capabilities you brought in, right? Are there examples of issues you've been able to address more quickly because you've got now this sort of unified set of capabilities?
Yes, with all the data coming into Splunk now, and us able to monitor the systems, for instance, we can monitor our claim system a lot better. Okay, so we can see the transactions coming in. We know how many transactions happen during any time, down to the minute. We can see how many of those claims are approved or declined, and how many of those claims error out or time out. And it's a very sensitive system. Claims is a very important business process for us. Because the members join, remember 89 cents gets returned to the members, and that's via claims. 89 cents, all that money gets returned so they can do their physio. So we need to know when that system goes down. So whereas before it took us a couple of hours to figure it out, we can now figure things out within minutes, okay? And we've even able to, some of the problems, we know what the fix is. We've even been able to, using Splunk, to automate it. So there's an alert comes out, we know you restart that process, it fixes the problem within 2 minutes, instead of waiting 20 minutes, half an hour to get people on a call to restart it anyway.
Fascinating. That efficiency is really important, like you say, right? And I think the other part that I really love about that story is the fact that you are approaching it from a very dollars and cents point of view, right? So we like to talk about business context and prioritizing things. That's a real life example of that in action, right? Excellent. So I guess when you think about the different teams that you have that are aligned around this sort of shared data, right? What's been the impact of having them do that?
Well, the impact is, because you're democratizing the data, you're also democratizing Splunk, okay? So for instance, if our database team, they can do some tuning on the databases, they can immediately see the impact, and hopefully it's positive impact on the transactions. They can see, okay, well, there's less transactions erroring out or timing out, and they can see the transaction time. It's like if it's increasing or decreasing. So you can immediately see that impact. Whenever they make a change in the evening, the next day we'll know what the result is. Okay?
Yeah.
We don't have to wait for that.
Yeah, so getting that democratized access, surely important. Now, I guess, you've been hearing, not just me, but probably, everybody on this entire show floor waxing poetic about AI. And I guess inquiring minds want to know, right? What's next on your roadmap when it comes to AI and automation, that sort of thing?
Well, obviously it's AI, okay? So there's two aspects to AI. So we want to use the AI in operations, okay? The SPL language, I have to say, it's not the easiest thing to learn, okay? Especially, if you're a novice like me, it's very hard to learn. But you go into an AI assistant, you ask it a few questions, and it will give you the SPL search, and you can create a dashboard or get some results out of it within minutes, okay? So we want to use more of that and more of the AI capabilities in there, especially like the one in the keynote this morning. Yeah. That kind of approach in there will make it so much easier, because it's very hard to teach a whole bunch of people how to do the SPL searches and build those dashboards themselves, okay? So that's the one component. The other component is we need to actually monitor some of our AI. There's a lot of AI initiatives kicking off in HCF as well. And there's more than I can mention here. But we need to know, are they actually doing what they're supposed to do? Are they working properly? Okay, or are we going to, again, be in a situation where we have to wait for users to come back and say, I don't think that thing is giving me the right answer.
Yeah,
okay, or
you do want to be ahead of the game on that, for sure.
Yeah, we want to get ahead of that and start learning how to monitor it properly.
Yeah. Now, so that's about the technology adoption, right? I guess when you look out, 6 to 12 months, in terms of, maybe it's applications or processes or something, like where are you kind of headed next with this?
So we're working very closely with our digital team, our digital experience team, and they are very focused, like everybody at HCF, but they're really focused on the member experience. So we will be working with them. So every member interaction and where the application comes in, we want to monitor that business process and make sure we understand it, we can monitor it, and we can pinpoint issues early on. Okay, yeah. It's not good when a member's experience is bad, and then they don't say anything, but eventually the calls come into the call center, and then the call center phones the service desk, and then it gets to us. By that time, you've lost 2-3 hours, okay? So we want to know down to the minute when the members are having a bad experience. So we'll be focusing on that over the next 6 to 12 months to uplift that big time.
Yeah. Very interesting. Well, so I guess, Anton, like hearing you talk about it, right? Like it's clear that your team is very directly impacting HCF's mission, delivering better experiences for your members. I guess as we close out, right? Any sort of quick words of advice for other folks who want to be on the same kind of journey that you're on today?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to monitor. Okay. If you're going to try and monitor everything, it's like boiling the ocean. So you have to prioritize. Okay. And what I say to when we have to prioritize, I would suggest is you always look at it from a user or, in our case, a member's point of view. So if they are having a bad experience, you've got a problem you need to fix. So if you can identify that problem, you know what to go and fix. But if you go and monitor all the other systems and don't figure out what's the member pain point, it's going to take a bit longer. So focus on your user or member or customer experience. Start there and prioritize what you want to monitor.
Yeah. That is the wisdom here, right? Because I think that I've often talked to customers who want to start at lower layers of the stack and sort of build up. Can I see what's going on with my CPU in this server, and then get to the error rate? And at some level, it's kind of like, hey, does it matter, right? And I think when you look at it from the user point of view, you really get to that answer very quickly. Awesome. Well, please join me in thanking Anton for everything. All right.
Thank you.
Excellent insights.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So really great stuff there. Maybe just a couple of parting words from me here. You've seen me talk about a pretty wide range of things when it comes to Splunk and what we're doing with the core platform, with observability, with security. There's a lot of other information out here, of course, on the show floor. There's a breakout session on the Cisco Data Fabric. There's one on Agentic Observability and the Agentic SOC as well. So if you're interested and want to get deep dives, those are available. Obviously, we've got, like I said, a lot of demos. And of course, if you want to sign up for a hands-on Splunk workshop, we are more than happy to do that so you can get the actual experience with this set of capabilities yourself. Okay? All right, so that concludes our session for today. Thank you very much for joining us.